Good evening, exiles. So, part of me moving in with Sarah, we've been going through our stuff and getting rid of stuff that we have too much of, or stuff we're not going to use, it's not practical for us, and stuff we're never going to use, but we're still keeping stuff with sentimental value. And I'm working on that right now, and I wanted to take you along for the trip and show you a bunch of different knives and how they can be used, and a more practical understanding of what knives you need and what knives you don't, because this is probably less than a third of all the knives we own, not including kitchen knives. So we need to sort knives out into different categories of how they can be used, and then if we have like 5 knives in that category and there's only 4 of us, we need to be getting rid of one to trim down this so we have less stuff in our house. And also, so maybe somebody we know could use that knife in their life. So let me move the camera around and we'll break this down into different categories, like everyday carry pocket knives, more like bushcrafting, more bushcrafting knives, and like more defensive knives, stuff like that, and discuss how knives are used, and it's a practical discussion of knives. That's what I want to have with you guys today, and that'll help us decide what knives we need to keep and what knives to get rid of. Like, we're keeping this one even though there's no practical use because it belonged to Sarah's late husband. It has some bushcrafting uses, and we may use it someday, but the boys may want the really nice high-end knife that their father owned. But let me move the camera around and we'll discuss all the different types of knives and, like I said, practical uses of knives. So we're going to start out with pocket knives here. So we're going to start out with this cheap, like, I don't know what happened to this thing. It's a cheap piece of garbage knife. It's not very high quality. Filled full of rust, and the sheath's not even real leather, it's just plastic, and it's covered in rust. So this is that's trash. We're not even going to discuss that. I could fix it all up, but it's not worth the time and effort. So let's go on. This is Thomas's Opinel. They make these in stainless and high carbon. They make them in different lengths too. But it's a little slip joint with a locking ring. And I'm going to make a video about each one of these knives, like a short about each one of these knives later, so I'm not going to go into deep discussion on each one, but this is a great little simple high carbon pocket knife. I keep one in my lunchbox to use to cut up my lunch, that way I'm not using my pocket knife to cut up lunch. And these are just great cheap little knives, really like them. This is definitely a keeper, especially since it's Thomas's knife. This is just a regular Swiss Army knife. These are great. Throw in your pocket, be an everyday carry pocket knife. Oh, this is the one I was looking for. This is also the smallest Swiss Army knife that has a saw. This is probably going to live in one of my camping bags or something like that. It has a bottle opener, which I might grind down into a can opener. That'd be a lot more practical. And then, of course, a toothpick and tweezers. Sarah carries on her keys a little Swiss Army knife. That's really handy for the kind of everyday stuff she does. I literally like this one because it's the smallest, lightest Swiss Army knife with a saw in it. It's not a very big saw. It's smaller than the saw on my Leatherman Surge. Actually, it's about the same size as the saw on the Leatherman Surge. So it's a great useful tool. Alright, so this is a antique case knife. Or antique-ish. It's old, anyway. That seems to be rusted shut. So it's something I need to work on. I might keep it around. I might give it to somebody. It has nice mother of pearl handles. It'd make a nice gift for somebody that's just getting into knives or something like that. This is a cheap case knife that my late wife won at some sort of Legion raffle or something. It's a useful little pocket knife, 3 blades, classic 3-blade knife. It's a little rusty. Okay, it's a lot rusty. But these are great little throw in your pocket knife. Throw in your pocket, use it. This knife was given to me by my late wife's uncle right before he passed away. He gave it to me because he found it and it says Scout on it, and since I'm in Boy Scouts as a leader, he gave it to me. But it's a great little antique knife. It even has this cool, if I can get it open. I can't get it open right now, but I need to clean this knife up. But it has this cool little carving knife, like a spoon carving kind of deal on it. Alright. This knife, I'm not sure what I'm going to do with. Probably give it away. It's a Case Made in America knife, but it's a nice little slim pocket knife. Not the best quality, but not terrible quality. Walmart used to sell knives like these that were made in China for $1. And I would buy them and throw them in drawers everywhere. So if you needed a knife for opening an Amazon package or whatever, you could just throw it in there, slice open what you needed, slice. And then if they got too dull, because they came relatively sharp enough to be used as a utility knife. And if they would get dull, instead of sharpening them, I would just throw them away because they're $1. This is just a simple Gerber. The bigger ones flip open. The little one doesn't flip open. Little simple Gerber pocket knife. Great little everyday carry knife. Same thing with this Gerber. Just a simple, not fancy. These two probably going to go. This one will probably go too. Even though this gives us into the Kershaws. Everybody in my family, so my dad, my uncles, or a lot of the people in my family, carry Kershaws. This one has a broken pocket clip on it, so it needs returned to Kershaw. But Sarah's late husband had a bunch of Kershaws, so now she carries one. I have my Kershaw to carry. Daniel started carrying one of his dad's Kershaws, and then for a present for helping us out with the wedding, we gave Thomas a Kershaw knife. So now everybody in my immediate family carries Kershaws as well. This is a little Kershaw, great little fixed blade folding knife. So what's nice about these knives is they're unassuming. They don't look like anything. Nobody's going to complain if you pull out like a Swiss Army knife at work to cut something up. But while I prefer locking, folding, they're much better, more utilitarian, much more useful knife. These are a little bit more intimidating and can't be used everywhere. Because, I mean, which one of these looks more like a scary... And as paranoid as people are, there's times where this knife, or like this little knife, is a much more appropriate knife than this thing because of the way people act these days. But this knife needs to go back because the blade won't stay tight. And then, speaking of knives that need to go back, this is a Kershaw my cousin gave me. I really like this thing. But the pocket clip keeps getting bent, even this upgraded titanium one. It's missing one of the rubber things, so it needs to go back for that. And you won't be able to see it on camera. But I handed this to a guy at work, and he dropped it on the concrete. Oh, I guess you can see it right there. The knife cracked. So, Kershaw's warranty lets you, if you send the knife back to them, and a check for $10, they'll replace the blade. So, all three of these Kershaws can go back in one shipment. So let's move on. These are practical, more practical, everyday carry pocket knives. Like I said, some pick your knife for the environment you're in. So like this is a much better knife to have in the office. Like this would be a good knife camping, doing chores around the homestead, stuff like that. Alright, let's get rid of these and then I'll grab the next bunch of knives. Alright, so these are more utilitarian type knives. Great tools to have around. So let's just start with this one. I carry this one every day. It's Gerber exchanger blade. They're just box cutter blades. These are great for opening Amazon packages or anything that'll dull or dirty your knife, so you don't have to do as much maintenance. You can just pull the screw out and throw it away. And what's nice about this one is it's designed to be used also as a money clip. And what I do is I just hook it into my the inside of my belt. So my pants are up against here, my belt, and this is the outside, and it disappears. I can barely, most of the time I don't even know it's there. And the added advantage of this is it doesn't slide around on my belt, unlike the Leatherman sheath does. So this holds the Leatherman sheath in place and keeps it from sliding in front of my pocket. I discussed that in my everyday carry video. I'll put a link up there to showing you how that setup works on my belt. But speaking of knives with utility blades, this is, hold on, where'd it go? I don't seem to have the spare blade handy. But this is a pocket knife that's designed so you can push this button here and the blade slides out. And then you can replace the blades without sharpening them. You can sharpen these. These are 440, I believe, stainless steel, so they stay decently sharp, and you can sharpen them. But the two things these are most commonly used for, people who don't know how to sharpen knives, well, three things. You don't know how to sharpen a knife. You can also use it for a utility blade, for things that you need a blade longer than this one for. And you don't have to worry about, it getting dull, nicked up, or whatever, no matter what you're cutting. They also think these are popular for is with hunters and farmers are starting, like homesteaders and stuff like that, are starting to like these blades. Because when you're butchering an animal and your blade gets dull, instead of having to stop to sharpen it, you just take this, throw it in an old Gatorade bottle or whatever, slip a new blade in, and get back to work. So it saves you a lot of time, especially if you're a hunter and you're tired and you've been out hunting all day and you don't want to spend all that time sharpening knives while you're dispatching a deer or cutting up a deer. And also if you're doing butchering a whole bunch of chickens or something in one day, not having to stop to sharpen your knife saves a lot of time. And then let's talk about the different multi-tools. Most of the multi-tools I own are Leatherman. We do own a few Gerber. I just didn't grab them for this video. If you go buy a multi-tool, spend the money to buy a higher quality one. They're well worth it. They're less likely to break when you need them. And the tools work so much better. Like the screwdrivers on a name brand, excuse all the glue over this, but the screwdrivers on a name brand Gerber or Leatherman or Gerber is going to be much better than the Ozark Trail Walmart ones and less likely to round out that screw. So this is my everyday carry Leatherman Surge. You can see all the glue all over it from work and dust from work. This thing gets a lot of use, so that's why it's all dirty all the time. I do clean it on occasion, but then I go back to work and get it all dirty. And like I said, I'm going to be doing videos on every multi-tool that we use, or every knife that we use and keep, and why we're keeping it, and all the features. So I'm not going to go into all the features of this right now. But the reason I like the Leatherman Surge over the Leatherman Wave is because the you can take these out, and they're T-shaped jigsaws, so you can put in whatever saws you want. Or it comes in this little pouch, and it's not in here right now. But the file, you can take the file out, so you can put in T-shank jigsaw blades. You can put in the metal file that comes with it. That's in my everyday carry bag. Is where I keep the metal file, and now I got this thing partially stuck. There we go. Now I put it in upside down. Stand by. Sorry about that. But the video, not all my videos are the best quality, but you get what you pay for, and these videos are all free. This one does, you can hear it rattling, have a broken tool in it, so it does need to go back. But that's it. I'll take care of that sometime. Eventually. The other thing I like over this one over the Wave is it has an awl. And I also like that it has, because you can swap out the saw for the file, it has a bigger pair of scissors on the outside instead of the little scissors that the Wave has on the inside. Now, the disadvantage is this thing's significantly bigger and heavier. And then I bought this aftermarket sheath for it because I tend to wear the front off of the leather sheath, either on the top or the bottom. The leather or the nylon ones I'll wear out by leaning against the machines while I'm at work to reach over things. So these aluminum sheaths I'm not going to wear out, and they don't have a flap you got to pull off. You can just reach down to your waistline and grab the knife. This is the same as that, only it's silver and also busted. So it needs to go back to Leatherman, and it needs to go back first so I can start carrying it, and then I'll send this one back. And then this one belonged to my late wife. It's a Leatherman Squirt S4, which is a great little, has scissors in it. It was a great knife for what she used it for. It'd be a good, if you carry like one of these, this might be another good option for you, depending on your, what you do. But she would use it for trimming her nails because she broke nails a lot. And it also has one of the best nail files in it I've ever used. Has a few other little things in it, including these little hidden pair of tweezers. So it's a good option. It's a very versatile little one. I bought a Leatherman P4, and I keep this on my tackle box attached to the outside. And the difference between the S4 and the P4 is which one is this? The P4 has pliers. Oh, I guess it's P for pliers, S for scissors, I guess. But it has scissors in it. It doesn't have the tweezers. It still has a nail file, but it's a more coarse file. Well, it still has a file in it, but it's not really a nail file. And there's no nail cleaner outer thing. So this one's better for me for fishing stuff. This is better to throw in like an everyday carry bag or something like that. And that's all I got for like these utilitarian type knives. Let's move on to fixed blade. Yeah, let's move on to fixed blade knives. Okay, so these knives are obviously a lot bigger. Oh, forgot to grab one. So let's start with, I already discussed this one a little bit. This is a Tom Brown tracker. Like I said earlier, this belonged to Sarah's late husband. It has all kinds of good bushcrafty type features in it. I outside of bushcrafting stuff, it's not the most practical knife in the world. We might use it when me and Sarah want to do more bushcrafting type camping in the summer. So we might use it for that. And also, like I said, we're going to keep it around in case the boys want it. But it's a big chunk and heavy knife. I personally would rather carry a like a Swiss Army knife with a saw, or my saw, a tomahawk, and I have a couple of different tools instead of carrying one knife to try to do all those tools, because it gives you more versatility, and a tomahawk is going to be a better chopper than this knife is. The saw on here is more of a notching tool and for making traps and less of a saw. So a saw will work better as a dedicated saw. But this is a nice tool. I mean, they're really cool. This is Thomas's knife that belonged to his dad too. And it's just a cheap Smith & Wesson. It is double-edged, so you can't carry it in the state of Indiana. But he really likes it, so he keeps it around. And he wanted me to show you guys the knife. It's not the most practical knife in the world. And you can use it as a defensive tool with some practice, but none of us really know how to do that. But it's more, like I said, a sentimental keepsake knife. So there's nothing wrong with keeping that around. Alright, this is a Mora. I have a couple of Moras. This belonged to Sarah's late husband as well. Moras are great all around, cheaper bushcrafting knives. They're awesome. I love them. In my tool bag, I keep a Mora chisel knife, which is just like a Mora knife like this, but the tip's cut off and ground to a chisel. And then it has a metal end so you can beat on it. The only downside to these is the knife blade only goes to about here instead of running full all the way through, so they are easier to break if you're doing a lot of heavy use for it. But again, if you're doing heavier tasks, use a tomahawk or an axe for that. But these are great, and because they're Scandinavian ground, they're pretty easy to learn to sharpen. Nothing wrong with Moras. They're awesome knives. Everybody should own a couple Moras just to throw around in their shed or places like that to use as a utility knife around the garden and stuff like that too. This I got at Walmart, and it's even cheaper than the cheap Mora. It's not nearly as good a quality. The blade's a lot thinner and more flexible, but I think I paid $2 for this knife. And it's actually really comfortable because it's based on the proven comfortable Mora handle. And for some reason, they actually did not Scandinavian grind it. It has a traditional hollow grind, which is actually more expensive to make than the Mora knife blade. More expensive to grind out. But, I mean, even the sheaths are similar. This is an example of a cheap knife that we might get rid of. I don't even know where I got it. The handles are uncomfortable. Where you put your finger is too small, even for my relatively small hands. It is a Skinner blade shape, which should be useful, but it's the wrong handle geometry. And I don't want a knife that I would be using for doing a lot of skinning tasks and then put it in a leather sheath to get that gross animal goo inside of there. So this is a cheap Columbia River knife and tool spew. Right now it goes in my everyday carry bag as a dependable small fixed blade knife. The advantage of fixed blade knives that are full tang like these is they're very durable. They don't break, and I just leave this for specific tasks where I need an absolute sharp knife, where my Leatherman knife might be dull from using it as a Leatherman. And then I added this ulti-clip to it, which allows it to hook to the inside pocket of a bag. Or you can actually carry this small knife like this in a pocket to use as a pocket knife. And a fixed blade pocket knife I think is really cool. But I am going to replace this in... Thomas, you're shaking the table. Sorry about that. I am going to replace this in my everyday carry bag with this knife that I actually like better. Once I get this knife sent off and returned from Kershaw. And then this is the Gerber Strong Arm. This is going to go in my bug out bag because it's a good, solid, full tang knife all the way through. This at the end is the same as this at the tip. And it's a comfortable knife. You can take this, put it on a log, beat through the log. It's called batoning with a stick. You know, beat on the back of the blade with a stick to split logs in half. I've seen people on YouTube, I've seen videos of people cutting like the lid off of a 55-gallon drum with this knife. Yes, that will dull it up pretty bad. But what I really like about this knife is it's ambidextrous sheath. Oh, and this one's made in America too. In Portland, Oregon. At the Gerber factory there. And this sheath comes with all kinds of attachment options and everything else. And it's a really comfortable rubbery grip. So if it gets wet while you're working outside in the rain, it won't slip out of your hand. This is... If you only buy one fixed blade knife, either a Mora, if that's all you can afford, or step up to the Gerber Strong Arm. And this will do everything you need a knife to do. Alright, let's switch out to some more specialty knives. These are more utilitarian knives I own. Like I already showed this one. But it's in the utilitarian because it's basically a bushcraft knife. It's not good for much other task. This is a spoon carving knife. You hold it in your hand and carve spoons. And I gotta be careful doing that while looking at the camera to make sure so I don't cut myself. That'd be embarrassing. But it's hooked like that so you can do it, sharpen knives. And I keep an old chunk of t-shirt wrapped around the blade to keep it safe. I need to get a piece of leather to wrap it with. And then this goes inside of a bag before it goes in my backpack. So that way it doesn't poke me or cut through things in my backpack. So this knife is a carving knife as well. So it has this regular carving knife blade. It has a chisel, this spoon carving hook, this gouge in here, and then it has these two other hook-shaped knives in here, hook-shaped blades. This is an old-timer carving jack. There's a bunch of other companies out there that make better ones than these. I got the old-timer because I figured it, while I'm learning, it's a good place to start. But the old-timer comes really dull, and I need to sharpen it. It's about useless. So let me move on to sharpening stones and stuff like that. Alright, we gotta slim down because we got 2 totes of sharpening stuff. So let me move this one out of the way real quick. This one was mine before we got married. And in it, I have this double-ended stone, double-sided stone. It's 6,000 and on this side, 1,000 grit on this side. And then I have this holder for it. Let me show you how that works. And I'm going to do a whole video later on how to sharpen knives. But you screw this down on the knife blade, or on the stone, so the because these are wet stones, so the wet stone doesn't slide around the table while you're sharpening it. Because these are soaked in water, so you don't want it sliding around. So this really helps with that. I also have this really coarse stone. There should be a bigger one in here. I'm not sure where it's at. And then one of these Harbor Freight diamond plates, and the backer, and another backer. I don't know where the third backer is, or the 2 diamond plates. And these things will not stay stuck together no matter what I use, so those need to be trashed. And then I also have this little guy. It's a really nice, fairly fine stone with a sharpening hook in it or a sharpening groove for doing fish hooks. So this stone will probably be thrown in my tackle box. Probably keep this stone around and this one and get rid of the rest. Or maybe get rid of this one too. Because in Sarah's box of sharpening stuff, she has this really coarse stone that's good for knocking burrs and stuff off of knives. She's got 400 grit and 1000 grit stone, a 3000 and 8000. She's got this guide to help learn how to sharpen knives. And then this thing, you run it across the stones when they're wet, and it builds up a nice slurry of grit on top of the stone to make it sharpen better. And then right now in there is my sharpening puck for doing axes and knives or axes and tomahawks, those kind of things. So what we're going to do, I just made the executive decision. We'll put this in here with these and these 2 stones, and we're going to get rid of the rest of that. And we're only going to keep this. That's all of our sharpening stuff. All of our regular knife sharpening stuff. But if you notice, you can't really take like the spoon carving knife. It's going to be really hard to sharpen that edge on this knife. You can do it, taking and rolling across. But some of these tighter, like this one's this tight little V groove, would be really hard to sharpen on a regular stone. So I bought, I believe, 1000 and 800 grit of these sharpening stones with the V grooves in them. So as I put together my spoon carving kit, these are going to live in the spoon carving kit. They won't be with the regular sharpening stuff. And what these do is they have a groove that matches all the tools. So you got one for the V, and that makes sharpening makes sharpening these tools a lot better, because you can just find the groove that matches them and sharpen away at the knife. And that's all I got for knives and knife sharpening. So let me move the camera around real quick for you. This helps you figure out what kind of knives work best for your lifestyle, whether it be just a simple knife for using around the office, everyday kind of stuff like that. More utilitarian blades like these guys, or multi-tools. Good bug out knives that are good high quality knives that can get jobs done when they need to be done. Because depending on what your lifestyle is, you may need a more gentlemanly, appropriate for the office style knife, or you may need a Leatherman and a box cutter. This is what I carry every day with me. If you do a lot of fishing, I hope, good knives for fishing and keeping around. There's so many different knives and different considerations, and I hope doing this helps you figure out what kind of knives fit in your life really well. including like homesteading tasks and stuff like that. Like this is a good light knife to keep around if you're doing a lot of homesteading tasks because it's sharp and it fits in your pocket. It's easy to get in and out of your pocket and you don't have to worry about breaking on you as long as you don't use it too badly. Or like a good knife for your bug out bag that's gonna be dependable no matter rain, shine. This knife can get the job done. Or if you're talking more like specialty knives, doing hobby crafting, spoon carving, and stuff like that, to enjoy your day with, sit around the evening next to a fire, telling stories with your family, carving a spoon, and all kinds of knives. Every knife, there's a knife for every type of activity. So I hope this helps you figure out what kind of knives you need for the activities you're doing, and helps you understand the quality of knives a little bit better, so you're not wasting your money on knives that, like this one, that I really don't understand what the purpose of this knife is. Or knives that are really expensive, cool guy knives, like this guy's a really cool knife. But if you're not doing a lot of bush crafting and stuff like that, this knife is not the most useful knife in the world. And a bug out, this one would be better. Or if you're just doing some simple cutting baling twine or cutting a stick off your electric fence wire, this little pocket knife would work better than this great big guy. So I hope this helps you understand the different uses of knives. So if you have a big pile of knives like we do, you can start to think about your knives and sort through them and get rid of stuff you don't need, and make your life simpler. And also, I hope it helps you understand a good sharpening system. Like I said, we're going to go do a video just on knife sharpening in the future. Maybe next week we'll do a video on knife sharpening. So that's it for this week. Like I said, I hope you got something out of it. I hope you enjoyed this. And I hope it helps you make your life better, more simple and organized, and gets it so you have the tool you need for the job when you need to do that job. And remember, we, his people, will start rebuilding.